Today I'm going to show you how I made these adorable concrete pumpkins, including the annoying part, so you can decide whether it's worth it to DIY or not. Concrete pumpkins have been on my list to make ever since I saw them pop up on my Pinterest feed. And after my success with the concrete skulls, I said to myself, how hard can they be? So I decided to make them. So I took myself to the store to buy some pantyhose. Yeah, you heard that right. I said pantyhose. You're gonna need some stockings for this craft. If you're thinking to yourself, why, Pam, that's a strange thing to need to make concrete pumpkins, you are absolutely correct. It is a strange thing indeed. But for today's method, you're gonna need some pantyhose to use as a mold for the concrete pumpkins. And as you'll find out, I'll come to regret that decision. Some random other supplies that you'll need for this craft are twine, some rubber gloves, some scissors to cut your twine, and some cement. The execution of these concrete pumpkins is relatively simple. You mix up some concrete, and then you scoop some of said concrete into your pantyhose. During this part, you may want to either A, enlist a friend, or B, get the help of a bucket to hold your pantyhose open while you scoop the concrete into it. A few additional notes concerning this step. It is beneficial if your concrete mix is less runny when you go to scoop it into your pantyhose. It should be the consistency of some very thick porridge. I made the mistake of having my cement mixture being a little too runny, and I did have a lot of leakage out of the side of the pantyhose. It's porous. I wasn't expecting that. I don't know why I wasn't expecting that, but I wasn't, and I made a mess. It's fine because I put a tarp down. I was at least prepared in my mess making, but it did make a mess. Even when I had it in something to hold it, those things had holes in them. I tell you my dirty mistakes, so then you don't make them yourself. And it is possible to overfill your pantyhose. Oh no. I use knee-high stockings, and the package did say that they were one size fits all. I can attest that they do not. Overfilling may cause your stockings to tear or rip and make the contents of said pantyhose spill all over the place, creating, yes, more mess. So far, this is topping the top 10 list of the messiest crafts I've ever made. Once your stockings are filled with cement, you're going to tie off the top to create little cement blobs. Next, you'll take your twine and wrap it around your little cement blobs to create that desirable ridged pumpkin look. The thing that makes pumpkins look like pumpkins. I did try to use elastics as well and discovered pretty quick that the twine was going to work out way better than the elastics, only because my elastics were rather large. They might have worked fine had I had the correct size, so you could probably experiment with this for yourself, but the twine was definitely easier to cinch up and tie and pull tighter, whereas the elastics, I think you would have a really hard time with it because they're so stretchy. So definitely go with the twine route for this. I also discovered that you should pre-cut your twine pieces, so then you're not fumbling with scissors and twine and cement covered hands. I'm making all the mistakes, so you don't have to. When you're happy with the pumpkin ridges, it's time to leave your little creations for a day or two to dry. Now, I'm not sure if the next part was a byproduct of my own making, or if you too shall suffer the consequences of attempting to use pantyhose as a concrete mold. In my mind, all I had left to do was to remove the hosiery from around the concrete pumpkins, and I would have cute little adorable pumpkins to set on my non-existent mantle. And while that statement is in fact true, the amount of effort it took me to remove the hosiery from around the concrete pumpkins had me once again questioning my crafting choices. I began by using a knife to cut away the top of the stockings and twine. Then I could peel the twine off the rest of the pumpkins. And at some points, I did need to cut the twine at the bottom of the pumpkins as well, and then could just peel them off the rest of the way. The first pumpkin I undressed was, of course, the easiest, and gave me unfounded confidence in my abilities to complete this task. And so I began what I am calling the diabolical dust storm of hell, as I pulled off pieces of pantyhose and sent showers of dust and concrete particles into the air. Wear a mask, people, and eye protection. I am not kidding. I could hear it hitting over here as I pulled the pantyhose off. Pieces of concrete detritus just were flung across the room and hit everything. And when most of the pantyhose refused to be pulled away from its joining, melding with the concrete, I had to resort to desperate measures. I started with sandpaper, thinking I could sand away the pantyhose and bumps. And when that didn't work, I went hardcore and turned to the files. At first, I was concerned with the files marking the outside of the pumpkins, but I also didn't want the stockings to remain embedded in the concrete on the surface of them. So I scrubbed and I scrubbed, trying desperately to remove any remaining scraps of fabric. And at one point, I even resorted to fire in an attempt to burn off any of the remaining pieces of fluff. This was very tedious, messy, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it, downright sucked. It sucked so much that I even questioned whether this DIY was worth it. So I did what any sane person would do and decided to price some online. And depending on your price range and your crafting abilities or how much mess you would like to make, it may or may not be worth it to purchase concrete pumpkins from somebody else who's already made them on, say, Etsy or from another shop. If you're not into making giant messes and don't want to buy all the supplies for this craft, then purchasing some online might be the right choice for you. But if you're crazy like me, then you should definitely DIY, my friend. Because in the end, I didn't actually hate how my little pumpkins looked. And to be honest, the scrubbing and all that crap to get the extra bits off probably took maybe an hour, hour and a half. So now all that's left to do is glue on some stems. If you would like to enhance your Halloween concrete collection with another craft, watch this video next. My name is Pam, and this is Total Pamarchy, the craft channel with a little anarchy. Until next time, bye and happy crafting.